Good morning, everybody. It's finally sinking in. Check this out. For months, Zelensky and European leaders tried to get through to Trump that Putin was not to be trusted, that he has no interest in ending this war unless it's exactly on his terms, that his plan was not to stop halfway, but take over the rest of Ukraine and attempt to restore the borders of the old Russian Empire, which included parts of Europe, such as Poland, parts of Romania, definitely Moldova, Baltic states, and Finland. For months. Well, he is finally starting to get an inkling. He had acknowledged that he doesn't understand why is it that Putin continues murdering Ukrainian civilians while supposedly we are having peace talks. That there is no reason for him to do so. We know! There was no reason for him to do so to begin with, just like there was no reason for him to invade Ukraine or annex Crimea, or if you go further back, to hack off a piece of Georgia. None of this had any reason other than Putin is an asshole. What this means doesn't become clear right away, because with Trump, you just never know what he might wake up and say the next day. So I'm not sure if this is good or bad, because Trump is a complete loose cannon, so we literally do not know. Is he gonna walk away because he understands that this is a complete failure? Is he gonna help Ukraine? Is he gonna put pressure on Russia? He doesn't really know how. What happens to his relationship to Putin? This is all open to speculation. There's a big piece in Associated Press today for those of you who are interested in the situation in Kursk. And again, we have contradicting news coming from Russia and Ukraine about what is happening there. So, if you want to know the details, they broke it down very nicely, full timeline, what happened, what the response was, etc., etc. The important thing to highlight was that, first of all, Ukraine's Kursk offensive began in the beginning of August 6, 2024. It was a total shock to the Russian military. The sheer speed and intensity of the offensive was a really big shock. And the fact that basically Ukrainians pulled the Crimea on Russia because they walked in and were able to penetrate deep into Russian territory, meeting with virtually no resistance. They also made a point to treat Russian civilians living in that area as humanely as possible. There were multiple videos. You can probably pop over to YouTube and watch the interactions between Ukrainian soldiers and Russian civilians in the Kursk area. Initially, Putin's response was very disappointing to the local government because he basically told them, this is your problem, deal with it. Then eventually, Russia did respond. And here's the thing. I said this before, I was wondering what was Ukraine's approach, what was their plan for how long they were going to be there. And yes, is it disappointing that they're now losing that territory, although fighting still continues. Russia claims they reclaimed all of the control over the Kursk region. That is not entirely true. Ukraine is still fighting. If they're going to leave, they're going to take some Russian corpses along the way. And that was the area where North Korean participation was revealed. Because if you recall, 11 to 12,000 troops were shipped in from North Korea. A lot of them didn't even know where they were going, what they were going to be doing. They were untrained. They had no experience, and they were thrown in there. So, will Russia kick the Ukrainian troops out of there? Probably. Is it unfortunate? Yes. However, again, let us not forget that this is now a huge stain on Russia's reputation as this major military power, this major impossible to defeat army. Because not only was Russia unable to run over the entirety of Ukraine in 2 or 3 weeks as they planned, not only were they not welcomed with open arms as they thought they would be, but Ukrainians were able to go and basically walk right into their own back door and stay there for months. 9 months. We had a handful of Ukrainian troops in Russia, and they could not dislodge them. So, yes, I agree that it would have been nice to hold on to that territory, but we have other fish to fry at this point. We have a very long front line to maintain. But some of the effects have been achieved. The shock, the surprise, the understanding that, yes, this can absolutely come knocking on your front door. That just because the war is happening over there across the border doesn't mean it can't come over here and appear right in your own backyard. So let's take whatever wins we have, regroup, and keep fighting. And then there is this. So there's 2 pieces to this. One is the article, also Associated Press, talking about the assassination of a Russian general by a car bomb just outside of Moscow. This is the Lieutenant General Yaroslav Moskalik, the deputy head of the main operational department in the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. And there is another article in The Guardian that a suspect has been arrested, according to Russia's claims. They're claiming there is a Ukrainian agent who was arrested for this, for placing a car bomb in this man's car. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, they have to deliver somebody. They have to show the public, ooh, we're strong on terrorism. And, they're flinging about statements, ooh, you see, evil Ukraine is engaging in the murder of innocent people. Let's stop right there. Let me tell you who Lieutenant General Moskalik was. This is the guy who was in charge of choosing targets for missile and drone operations. This is the guy who helped orchestrate the deadly strikes against Sumy, against Kryvyi Rih, against Kharkiv, Kiev, Dnipropetrovsk. Russians themselves said, hey, if there is a handful of high-ranking Ukrainian military in the middle of a crowd of civilians, that makes it a legitimate target. This general was not in the middle of the crowd. He was in his car when the car blew up. No other civilians suffered from this. I say it's a win, and he was absolutely a legitimate military target. More to come.